Hello everyone, my name is Roya, and today I'm going to be reviewing Mostly Human by D.I. Jolly. This was sent to me by the author in exchange for a free and honest review, and this is about a boy named Alex who basically grows up to become a world-famous rock star and a rock and roll Hall of Famer and everything, and he actually was bitten by a werewolf at age 10 and has been a werewolf ever since and has been hiding that from the world. So basically, I ended up really liking this book a lot more than I thought I was going to be from the first half. So the first half is where I found the most fault with this book because aside from a lot of grammatical errors and stuff, the first half of this like 400-page book just deals with him as a 10-year-old first getting bitten. And I thought that that could have been way shorter because a lot of it was kind of just about him being rushed to the hospital and all this other stuff. And I thought that it could have started with just him waking up at the hospital and remembering getting bitten by a wolf, that kind of thing. And there were also a lot of point of views. So basically all his relatives, including like his grandfather and everything, all get a point of view during the first half of the book, because it takes place on like his family's farm in Canada, and it's basically, I felt like a lot of those people maybe didn't deserve a point of view, because I mean, yes, obviously I see the temptation for wanting, you know, your characters that you've built up as being really well-rounded to all have their like say in the story and whatnot, but I kept feeling the need to just hear Alex's story or hear his father's story because he was the one mainly like having a point of view during that part. And then also the point of view, I felt like it changed a lot, like really, really often, like in every paragraph there was a new point of view at some points, especially in the first half. And so I kept feeling like, well, you know, that could have been a lot tidier if it was just, say, Alex's father's point of view or just Alex's point of view even. So there was just a lot going on that I felt it could have been skipped a little bit. And then also the way that people are introduced during that part, they kind of are just introduced by name and you don't know who they are. Like, so that was like a little bit confusing because there was already like a lot going on. And then also there is a lot of buildup with the wolf that bit him having been like tied up. Like it was tied down and Alex tries to free it because, hey, why is a wolf like tied up like that? And so he winds up getting bitten. And so there's a whole lot of build up to like, why is this wolf like a wolf that big tied up? Like, who the hell could have done that? All this stuff. And we never find out. We never like see that wolf again. And I was really hoping for that. Like there's a part where Alex as a teenager goes back to the farm to be there for like a couple months. And I totally thought, oh, now he's gonna encounter that wolf again and find out what the heck was up with that, but that didn't happen at all. So, I mean, if this was a series, then like, then it would be understandable for that not to happen in this book, but I'm fairly certain it's a standalone. The second half gets a lot better, and that takes up the second most of the story, though. I would have enjoyed the parts where he was an adult a lot more if they had been longer, and the part where he's a little kid being shorter, because I thought that was really odd that, like, the way that that was done with the part where he's a 10-year-old taking up almost half of the book, and then the part where he's an adult being the smallest part. But I did find the part about him being a teenager really interesting. There was a lot in it that was really cool. Basically, they live on a man-made island called Sin Island, and it has no natural resources or anything, and we basically, I mean, we find out some stuff about how stuff works there, but it honestly could have been anywhere. Like, this could have taken place in California. Basically, I really wanted to see like more of that setting while we're on that island, but it really didn't feel like it was any place different from like just anywhere in North America. The part where he's a teenager does have a lot more conflict as well, and I really liked that. Just so much stuff happens, and this book does a really good job of really keeping you reading by ending every chapter on a cliffhanger, and I felt like the part where he's a teenager really did have the most of that. Just the most conflict and the most suspense and the most like, holy crap, what's gonna happen now? But I really did wish we got to see more of his bandmates as actual characters. Like, he has a great relationship with his sister, and she's an awesome character. We really get to see like what their relationship is like, and some of their banter just really cracked me up. But everyone else, like the kids who he ends up being in a band with and everything, like they seemed really like barely in it, and that made me kind of sad. I would have liked to see more of them. And I also thought it was a little bit weird that on two separate occasions, Alex is basically like a grown-ass woman throws herself at him on two separate occasions, two different women, and one of them knew that he was just a teenager and she did that anyway. And so I thought that was a little bit weird and like just really odd of those people. And I know that that sort of encounter is very in keeping with Alex's crazy personality, which I loved, by the way. Like his personality is really great. And but basically I thought like both of those instances, I kind of thought like why is that happening? Like it seemed so random and slightly out of place. And like if that kind of thing happened like when he was an adult, then that wouldn't be weird. And that kind of does happen during the part where he's an adult, kind of, but it's not as random. Like during the parts where he's a teenager, I just kind of thought like who are these women, and like what is their like deal? But the parts where he's an adult were really awesome as well. They were just way too short, and I really would have wanted them to be longer, because they were just so short in comparison with the rest of the book, and that seemed kind of weird when you kind of go into this book thinking that it's going to be mostly about him as an adult, but it's not. It's such a small part of it. So basically, like, if you're picking up this book hoping that it's going to be entirely about him as an adult, like, don't think that that's what it is. It's about his whole life, and like most of it for some reason takes place when he's first gotten bitten and everything, and his family's like figuring out what to do about that, like what that means, etc., etc. And one more weird thing about the part where he's an adult, though, is that basically when a character goes in to get an abortion, the person doing the ultrasound actually shows her the ultrasound and like points out the baby, and that makes her not want to get an abortion anymore. And that seemed kind of odd. Like, obviously there are a lot more ways where somebody could choose to keep the baby. Like, there's nothing, you know, like whatever, but for an ultrasound technician to show that to the person getting an abortion, like, obviously that's a horrible, horrible thing to do. And I seriously had to put the book down for a second and go, like, what the hell? Like, nobody would ever do that. And that just, like, struck me as kind of weird, and, like, because really, like, all you're doing is checking to see if the person's really pregnant before you continue on with the appointment. And basically, like, but the person just does an ultrasound like normal and kind of just goes like, that's your baby, and she just loses it and says, oh, I can't do this. Like, obviously, like, what do you expect? Come on, like, you don't do that to someone who's seeking an abortion, like, obviously. So I thought that could have been, you know, done better. I thought maybe there could have been some other way for her to decide not to get rid of the baby. All of that stuff. So that part I thought was just really odd and really random. But anyway, like, so overall, I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I wanted to give the first, like, when I was just on the first half still, I kind of had it in my head that I wanted to give it 2 stars, but then I thought, like, no, it's way too good for 2 stars, because I tend to reserve 2-star reviews for A, books that are just really, really generic, which of course this was not, and B, books that just really only had like 1 or 2 redeeming qualities, and this had far more redeeming qualities than that. It was actually a really enjoyable, fast-paced read. It had a really awesome family dynamic. I really enjoyed a lot of the discussions that it made about music, especially about how pop music is getting really generic these days and seeming really ungenuine and overproduced. All that stuff, because like as a musician myself, I kind of, you know, like I think about that stuff all the time, and so I thought that was there were some really good quotes about that. There were actually a few really good quotes throughout this book, and then also And then also, I really, really liked the interstitials kind of in between each section of the book. It shows like Alex being interviewed by a radio station and asking him a bunch of stuff, and I thought those parts were really, really great. This is a really good book to, for example, read on an airplane or a road trip, and if you like don't want to read something super dense or anything, because this is a really fast-paced read for sure. I really liked this book. I just thought that it could have been a lot better as well. And I am definitely looking forward to seeing what this author does next. So if you read this book, like let me know what your thoughts are and all of that, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!